Hello there, Internet. Jason Wilmot here. Hopefully, you are doing well. Thank you for joining me as the people go ahead and tune in. And I want to say hello to those of you who are watching, sorry, those of you who are listening today as well on the podcast. So, today is Mastering Funnels Podcast episode 7. And today, what we're going to be talking about is the Mastering Funnels process. So, one thing that I've done is I've talked a little bit about Mastering Funnels before. And what I want to do is kind of dispel what it all takes in order to build a fully functional funnel. Now, let me unpack what I mean by funnel, and then we're going to get into the bulk of this. And this is probably going to take a little bit of time today. So if you are, an agency owner, if you are a marketer, if you're a business owner, and you're trying to scale up your business with online ads, then this is going to be a very, very good podcast for you to be listening to. So let me kind of set the stage here. I think we all know that when it comes to internet marketing, there's a lot to be said for paid ads, and paid ads are kind of seen as the secret to internet marketing. Well, the magic, and there's a magic and there's a secret. So the magic is internet marketing works, and the way that internet marketing works is by leveraging data. Really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is we're understanding data. We're sending clicks to our website. This could be paid. This could be organic. These could be referral, and all of these clicks behave in a certain type of way. See, the magic of the internet is understanding how to send this data in and how to capture it, and then how to go in and analyze it and make different decisions or decisions based upon it. Then the secret, though, of the internet is leveraging things that are trackable, predictable, and scalable. And oftentimes, those are paid ads. Now, I've worked in several scenarios where we have managed to get a lot of opt-ins without paid ads. One of the times, a couple summers ago, I was working on this joint venture with The Weeknd and with TikTok and with this startup called WaveXR. And the vast majority of the traffic for the Weeknd campaign obviously came from the Weeknd himself. But we want to understand the difference between, what's the difference between the Weeknd's Twitter engagement, Instagram engagement, and so on. And so we tracked all of those things. That is the magic of the internet. You can understand the clicks and how they behave. But I think the secret is, for common folk like you and I'm assuming you, the listener, and myself here as well, hated those folks watching. We don't have that ability. We don't have hundreds of thousands or not millions of, viewers or followers. And so it takes us a little bit of time in order to, fill our funnels. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about how do you leverage this internet marketing game in order to, either get more leads, get more sales, get more customers. And so when I'm talking about an offer, I mean this is something that you have online. So if you have a website, most likely you have an offer. At least you should be, because that is the power of the internet. And this offer is an action that you want somebody to do or to take on your website. Typically, that's the call to action is going to tell them to do this. And I'm going to get into all of the specifics here in a second, but I'm going to lay the groundwork here. So this offer is your, somebody booking a phone call with you, somebody downloading something, somebody starting up a free trial for you if you're a SaaS, somebody requesting a quote from you, or if you're in e-commerce, it's somebody actually buying. So that's what we're talking about today. So we have an offer out there online. And if you don't have an offer online, then I would encourage you to use your website. You see, where this all starts is it starts at your website. Whether that is a landing page or a website, we need to use our website as an engine, as a machine. And we're going to program this machine to listen to the data, to find these patterns of data so that we can send in more traffic and scale. Ultimately, at the end of this, right, I want you to put this in your mind. Nobody likes going out and spending money without ROI. And often up till now, in TV or advertising or radio, a lot of businesses have just been putting out content or putting out ads and then hoping that it results in sales and trying to kind of measure in some roundabout way the ROI. Well, with online advertising and using data, you're going to be able to dial in your ROI very, very well, if not down to the penny when it comes to online marketing and paid ads. And that's what we're going to get into today. I'm going to walk you through the exact system on how to do this, going to pull everything back. And if you have questions along the way, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I can answer those live. But really what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this architecture from the very beginning to the very end. Hopefully I can get through this in time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through every single little component that you need in order to scale up your offer. Now, my offer is called Mastering Funnels. It's an online coaching. It's an online course with an option of coaching. And in this process, this Mastering Funnels template, or this framework, has been developed over the several years of building funnels, using funnels, helping clients revenue over $50 million in trackable revenue. And so I want to come at you with, hey, this is not just some theory. This is something that has worked over and over and over again, and something that I really sat on for a couple of years of how do I teach this process? How do I help somebody understand how to go about building this? If you're familiar with ClickFunnels, you're familiar with these other websites, there's this slogan of you're one funnel away, right? It seems like they make it seem like this is easy, when in fact it is not. It's a technical process, but is a teachable and applicable process if you just follow the steps. So whether you want to join Mastering Funnels or not, that's not necessarily the case of this, but I just want to walk you through the exact process of what I go through every single time that I'm thinking through a funnel in my head, or if a partner comes to us that wants to work together. What I'm doing in my brain is I'm thinking through these 5 different steps of what we are going to do in order to scale this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to understand this architecture. So this framework that I lay out in Mastering Funnels is called the ACURI framework, ACURI. Those are acronyms. They all stand for something. And the A stands for this, is your architecture. So your funnel architecture. And basically I can break this down into 3 main things. So the first part is you have to have an offer. And this is really where most businesses really have a hard time, I think, vocalizing or putting their offer into compelling copy. So the offer is eventually what you are trying to offer these folks after they book a phone call with you, after they have a demo with you, after they download your software and give this the 2-week free trial. So whatever this is, your offer is just sitting there for people to take you up on. And I can't really speak too much on this offer. And I've spoke a couple weeks ago on how to articulate your offer and understand where this person is. Typically what I say is, people aren't really interested in you. They're not interested in your offer. They're interested in themselves and where they want to go. And if you can position that offer that you have in front of these individuals who have this destination in their mind, and they see your offer as the vehicle, well, then you are on a great start. So there's a lot of talk that has to be done around an offer, and I've talked about that before, and I could probably talk about that a little bit more. But for the case of today's podcast, I don't want to spend too much time in the specific step so that I can get through everything. So you have to have an offer, and it has to be a compelling offer. And I think one of the things that people just rush into when it comes to paid ads is they see paid ads as a magic bullet. And no doubt it is, because it is trackable, scalable, predictable. But if you have kind of a lousy offer or a confusing offer, or if it's an offer that's too wide, then when people get to your website, when they check you out, when they're looking at your offer, they might not think like, hey, that is the vehicle to get me from A to B. That's like, I don't really understand who this is for. I think, I can't remember which book I read this in, but I think, I think it was Story Brand, where Donald Miller says, the brain doesn't want to burn calories. And if your language and your offer is confusing, the consumer's brain doesn't like that. And so you need to lay out this copy. You need to lay out your offer quite clearly. And so if that is clear, then you have somewhere to go. And I would say that your offer obviously is the most important part. So prior to running ads, what I highly suggest is 2 things. 1, go try to sell your offer without paid ads. Go get feedback, because feedback at the beginning of a campaign, or feedback at the beginning of scaling up an offer, is the most important component. You need to understand, hey, does this offer actually hit? And then does it work, right? And then, the second part is going and getting that feedback, and then updating your offer, tweaking your offer, just understanding where the feedback is. I would go out and sell your offer a handful of times, or maybe even more than that. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 50 times before you turn on paid ads. You just need to be darn sure that when you go to market with this offer, that your language, that your copy, and that your delivery, right, is actually something that is working and something that people are taking you up on. They can see the value in that. They're exchanging money with you, and they're free to, you're free to move forward once you have that. Do not run ads. Do not go out and spend a whole bunch of money if your offer is fuzzy, if you haven't really dialed it in. That is the number one mistake that folks make in this space, is that they're just thinking like, okay, I can cook up an offer. I can run ads to it. And if I just run ads to it, then it'll work. Well, at the end of the day, your offer has to be good. You have to be able to deliver on that offer, and that offer actually needs to get that person to that point B. So if it's point A and point B, that vehicle actually has to be a mechanism to help them get to that B. Now, let's say that you have this offer in place. Well, the next part of this funnel architecture is really about your funnel steps and segments. And what I mean by that is this. Typically a funnel has a couple different things. It has a landing page or a website. So if somebody sees this ad online, they click and they have to visit your website. And your website, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, is the mechanism. It is a machine. It is a data harvesting tool to help you gather data to make sense of what to do next. And so the way that we kind of segment this down is, okay, there's a landing page. And then if somebody, and this, I'm going to keep this very simple because this could be different, right? You have a website or you have a landing page. And then somewhere on that landing page, there's a call to action. This is the next step that presents somebody with this initial first step into your offer. And maybe it's that's the only one. Maybe it's to sign up for a webinar. Maybe it's to book a phone call. Maybe it's to buy. Maybe it's to download. So you have this call to action, and then this person takes you up on this call to action. And then ultimately, if they do opt into your offer, something that needs to happen is it needs to redirect to a thank you page. This thank you page is sort of the endpoint. We're going to be talking about endpoints next. So this endpoint sort of tells your website or tells your funnels like, okay, here's the landing page, here's a call to action, and then here is this endpoint. This endpoint is so very vital because what it's going to do is going to help you with your ROI, and it's going to train your machine learning. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But most of the time, you're going to redirect people to a thank you page. It's because this thank you page is the end of the loop, right? It closes everything up, and that is the end of the funnel. Now, sometimes you don't have this luxury of a thank you page. Perhaps you are running a call booking funnel and you have Calendly or something like that. Now, you can redirect to a thank you page, but let's say that you're using a phone booking system where you have a SaaS offer and it doesn't go into a thank you page. Well, oftentimes what you can also do is you can grab an event. So an event is something that fires in the background. It's just JavaScript, and that could be used as the endpoint as well. But for the sake of visualizing this, I always like to think of an endpoint being a thank you page. Now, the last component is this. Before you ever get started running paid ads online, you have to understand what your math is. So that is the very first part of all of this. Now, when I say your math, I just mean working your offer backwards. And so running paid ads is great. However, if you are spending more on the ads than you are on making revenue on that offer, then it's not going to work. And there's a lot of different cases here. In e-com, perhaps you're willing to spend up all the way, right? Perhaps let's say your average order value is $50. And then, if you have this potential to have repeat customers, well, then you should be willing to spend $50 or maybe even more than $50 to get that $50 AOV if you can continue to sell to this customer in the future. But let's say, for easy math, that you have a $1,000 product. Let's say it's $1,000. Let's say it's $5,000. I don't know, but we're just going to go with $1,000. From there, you have to understand what does it take in order to get somebody to opt in. So if this is a call booking funnel, you would have to understand how much money does it take in order to get somebody on the phone. Is it $150? Is it $100? Is it $200? And from there, you would have to understand what your close rate is. So if it's 25%, let's just say each funnel or each phone call costs you $250 and my close rate is 25%. That would mean if there's a 100% show up rate, right? Then that would mean that you're going to net $1,000 on this sale, but it's going to cost you $1,000 to book 4 phone calls and only close one of them. So this is what I mean by the math. The math is so important in this because all of internet marketing really boils down to ROI, trackable, measurable ROI. And so please don't go out and run a funnel without understanding the math first. And typically what I do here is I'm always conservative. And in Mastering Funnels, like the third module or the third lesson in module 1, is all about how to build out this this math. So you start at the end and then you work it back to the beginning. So how many clicks do I need in order to get leads? How many landing page views do I need to get opt-ins? How many opt-ins do I need in order to get those booked phone calls? How many booked phone calls do I need in order to close my product or close the sale? So that's a call booking funnel. If it's different, you could have an e-com funnel. You could also have just a lead gen funnel where somebody requests a quote or downloads something. So you have to just understand the math. But typically where I say is start backwards. Always work backwards and always be conservative with your numbers, because at the end of the day, it's very easy to get optimistic in a Google spreadsheet or a spreadsheet. But then when it comes time to turn that funnel on and those numbers don't match up, then you're kind of in a world of hurt, and that's just not good. So that is funnel architecture. So it's understanding one, it's what is the offer and making sure that that offer is very, very strong. And that's kind of just fundamental, right? Two, it's understanding your segments of there's a landing page typically or a page on your website. There is a call to action button. And then if somebody does opt in, then we're being redirected to a thank you page, because that is going to close the whole system there. So that brings us on to step two. And this is kind of where I have carved out really what I like doing in my living and helping other people. And what that is understanding how to build this funnel. So when we were running this funnel with the weekend, we had like 100,000 opt-ins, and I think it was like 72 hours. This is an insane amount. And what we did, though, is we had to understand where all of this traffic was coming from. And the way that you do that is by setting up this thing called a conversion in your Google Analytics or in your Facebook Analytics or your Facebook custom conversions. This would count for any, platform as well. TikTok, Twitter. I don't know where you're getting your conversions, but your conversion is if somebody takes you up on that offer, right? And that is why this thank you page is so important. So the thank you page acts as that endpoint. So typically the way that you think about this conversion is whoever hits this thank you page, then that is the conversion. The conversion fires there. So typically we would set this up on if there is a page view of this thank you page, then fire the conversion. And that's the easiest way to think about this. And really the most important metric in all of internet marketing, at least I would say at this point, is conversion rate optimization. And what I mean by that is this. So let's say that the weekend is sending in traffic from his Twitter. Let's say it's coming from Instagram. Let's say we're running paid ads. Let's say we're running paid ads on Instagram and on TikTok and wherever else, right? At the end of the day, what you can do in your Google Analytics or your analytics system is understand you can go to that page view, that thank you page, and then you can look at what sources are lining up. What sources? So is it referrals? Is it affiliates? Is it organic? Is it paid? You can see how all of those measure up in a percentage of how often these people convert. And so what that allows you to do is read the numbers, read the data. Now, typically, you don't have a whole lot of control about affiliates or influencers or direct or organic traffic. But if in the land of paid ads, this is really where you understand your ROI. So if people are coming from Google or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, you should be able to note, well, how often are these people actually opting in? And then when you go back to the cost on the platform, you can do your math, you can work your math to see what your ROI is per platform. And the only way that you can do that, though, is by implementing these conversions. So conversion typically is a page view or a thank you, like I said in the last bit. We can fire these off of events too. So if there's a JavaScript that fires, we can listen to that specific JavaScript firing with something like Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics. So that's what a conversion is. It is the important stopping point in your funnel. And really it does two things. So one, it allows you as the marketer or the business owner to understand your ROI. You can get in there and you can understand, okay, I got this many opt-ins from this source. And then you can go back and see how much you spent on that source. And you can understand your ROI. The next important component, though, is machines, AI, and these ad platforms are way better than you, and they're way better than me, and they're way better than both of us or all of us combined when it comes to going out and finding people who are interested in your offer. So by creating these custom conversions on Facebook or conversions on YouTube or on TikTok, what happens is when people ultimately hit that thank you page, they send, or the platform sends that information back these conversions, I should say, these custom conversions, send that data back to the platform, and they go find more people who will take this action. So this conversion is really the machine that activates this AI learning system. And so this is how you scale up, right? If you create campaigns in Facebook or Google or TikTok and they're about traffic or they're about page views and all of this stuff, that's what the AI is going to learn to do. And that's not what you want. You want to be running conversion-based campaigns because you're training this machine to go find other people who are opting in. And so the more people that opt in, then the better this AI gets, the better the machine learning gets. And over time, that should decrease your cost per conversion, but increase your conversion rate optimization. Again, conversions, I think there's a little bit of like mystery about these, but they're really not hard. Just think of it as the endpoint. What are you trying to get somebody to do? Great. So if somebody does that, where do they end up on your website? Okay. So if somebody ends up there on that website, how do you tell that to your analytics and how do you tell that to the ad platforms? The answer is a conversion. And the conversion is the best way to, again, get your ROI and then understand how to teach and train these platforms. And so conversion rate optimization then is this next layer. So if you have this baked in conversion, then it's analyzing your numbers. You're looking down as the conversion rate according to the source or according to the campaign, according to the ad group, according to the ad set, according to the ad. And so really what this does is it's going to give you this incredibly powerful indicator of whether your ads or your campaigns or these sources are working. There's no really guessing at this point. You just understand, you look at your conversion rate optimization, and then you can go from there, which enables you then, as we'll get on in the rest of this, to dig into your split testing. So the conversion rate optimization is the fundamental piece that's going to allow you to split test. Now, we're not going to talk about split testing until part 5 because everybody wants to go there, but there's some fundamental pieces here first. So typically what I teach in Mastering Funnels Module 2 then is how to go out and map these conversions so that you and your team are all talking about the same thing. Or if you're an agency owner, you and your client are talking about the same thing. Too often agencies are spinning their wheels thinking about how do I continue to like upsell my clients with more videos or more clicks or more likes or more views, when really all a business owner wants is actually sales. And so that conversion and a conversion rate optimization and mapping out your conversions is going to help you and your team communicate, or you and your clients communicate, and ultimately move the needle for that client. So if you have creative and you're putting it out there and you're running a campaign for somebody, the conversion is how you denote whether you're moving the needle for the business or not. Now, there's a trick involved because if you set up a conversion, you're not necessarily going to get all of this click info. So really what we have to do is we have to update our links. So this brings us to step 3, and I'll get to questions here in a second. So step 3, module 3. Now let me update this just because, we need to stay consistent. There we go. So step 3 is UTM tracking and templates. So this is where I start to see people's eyes glaze over, which is fair, right? You talk about UTM tracking templates and all of this other stuff. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Jason. But here's what I mean. I mean money. I mean ROI. So imagine this. Imagine you have these conversions built in your Google Analytics. And let's say that you want to actually track down to the individual ad. You want to track the performance of everything that you're doing. Conversions alone won't do it. Conversions alone are just going to tell you how many people are converting overall on your website. But if you really want to increase your skills, if you really want to understand the performance of every single inbound click that's coming via paid ads, then you need to attach this thing called a UTM. Now, when you're spinning up UTMs, this probably takes about 30 seconds per link or 30 seconds per ad. So it doesn't take any bit of time. But here is what the magic does. So you have this conversion. You have your offer over here, your landing page, your call to action, and your conversion. Then you have all of these clicks. They're coming in from different sources. You can use UTMs with affiliates. You can do this with paid ads. You can do this with not so much with referrals. You could do it with blog content or whatever, right? But let's just live in the land of paid ads for a second. How do you know the difference between YouTube and TikTok or Google and Facebook and Instagram, or this ad set and that ad set, or this ad and that ad? What a UTM does is it attaches this long string of characters. And typically, they're these 5 little components that you send in: your source, your medium, your campaign, your content, and your term. What you do is when you send these clicks into your website and this long string is attached to them, what your analytics does is it just pulls those strings in and kind of deposits them in different spots in your analytics. So if you go to look at all of your campaigns, because you've used UTMs, you can see how the difference of your conversion rate amongst all of your campaigns. You could do that at your ad set level. You could do that at your ad level. And see, what UTMs really do is they connect the click all the way to the conversion. So again, you have to have all of these elements prior to using UTMs. UTMs alone isn't going to save you. You have to be able to understand how to go build your conversions, because that is the main thing. But then once that conversion is built, then you can backtrack all the way to these UTM links. And that is really the key to split testing, because what these UTMs will do, if you sort according to the ad, if you sort according to the ad set, or if you sort according to the campaign, you're going to have that campaign, you're going to have that conversion rate optimization breakdown for each one. So again, this is the key. This is like the backbone to really scaling up your offer, really scaling up your ads. And again, it's not necessarily about this one simple trick or this one hack. It's building a system that can take in data. It's having the understanding of how to send that data in, and then it's having this ability to go look and harvest this data so that you can make decisions based upon what this data is telling you. So you don't have to like guess. You don't have to go with your gut. You're just like going into your analytics. You say, oh, okay, this is a conversion rate for this, and this. Let's pause TikTok. Let's increase the ads on Instagram, or vice versa. So what this is doing, again, is this is creating a machine to pull in data, but then it's giving you the ability to think about, how do I send data in? How do I go find it? And then how do I iterate according to that data and sort of the proof there. So when it comes to UTMs, though, there's a way to manually send them in, and then there are dynamic ways. And I teach this in Mastering Funnels kind of towards the end of this. After you understand the theory, there are ways to kind of do this dynamically. So if you're in Facebook and you want to add UTMs to your clicks, there's a very, very easy way to just pull these in dynamically, so you don't have to go through all of the work. Again, it takes like 15 seconds to do per ad. Then if you're in Google Ads, you can use something called the tracking template. In TikTok, there's a UTM piece as well. So really what I teach and what I would suggest is first understand how these work, so you can go in and find this information, and so that you can send this information in that you can test. And then once you have an understanding of that, well, then just let Google and YouTube and all that, just use the templates so that you can go in and then quickly iterate and spend more time worrying about your ads and your creative rather than setting up UTM. So there's a really, really simple way of using these UTMs kind of at scale if you want to just use the template. So I'm going to pause here for just a second. Couple comments, and then I'll get back into it. So UTM, Universal Truth Measurement. That is from John. John, I think that is absolutely awesome. Universal Truth Measurement. Really, there's no line when it comes to UTM. So what a UTM will do is it follows that person all the way through their website. Now, this is 100% cookie free, by the way. So if people have opted out of cookies, Facebook or Google and all of this stuff, they may not actually see that. So one, this is good for the consumer because you're not using any data privacy issues. You're just sending them in with this script that is going to be listening to where they end up on the website. But as far as that truth measurement is concerned, I think that's absolutely spot on. I mean, it is the truth. What I like to say is, when you're using UTMs and conversions, you're scaling with predictability and with proof. Predictability because you have that conversion rate optimization, and the proof is just right there because they did it. They clicked, and you can't cheat that, right? You can't like hijack that. It's a very, very simple way of understanding how the performance of these ads. Next question. Have you seen any offers that have time-sensitive calls to action or guarantees convert better than those that do not? Also, do you think guarantees are just masking a bad offer, poor communication of value? That's a really good question. As far as like time-sensitive calls to action, I do think there's always something to be said for scarcity. I think scarcity is the best. It's always best when you can bake it in, but I think when it is phony, then that is dumb, right? I think we've all seen these webinars where it's like, hey, you clicked on this link And this webinar is actually going live in the next 5 minutes. What are the chances? Book now to make sure that you have a spot. It's like, I think everybody knows at this point that this is not a live webinar, nor is this going to fill up, right? So I think there is something definitely to be said about, I don't know, I think that's spammy. But, if you're attracting those types of people, if you've got a spam offer in a spam audience, then go for it. I think all the more power to you. I think that kind of nonsense worked before. I think people are not as likely to fall for that kind of nonsense anymore. But I would be amazed. I am amazed that people still use it because they take somebody's course or they go look at somebody's like, oh, well, so-and-so is doing it, and I need to do it too. We've seen things like social proof pop-ups where so-and-so opted in, and, there's all sorts of ways that we can legitimize our offer. But I think scarcity is a great way to get people to take action, like limited time offer, limited supply. And that's real, right? That gets you to take action. There's FOMO there, but if you do it poorly, I think people immediately that is repelling. So I think you bring up a really good point. Also, do you think guarantees are just masking a bad offer or poor communication of value? That's also a good question. I think guarantees are actually marketing more than anything. Now, for Mastering Funnels, we do a 2-week money back guarantee. Why? Because it's a terrible offer. I'm joking. No, because I actually believe in it. So I think that right there, it could be masking a bad offer. Or what it can be is just like this absolute confidence in your offer and like the fact that you're not about to just take people's money. And that you want to help them. Like in my case, I really want to help people, and I really believe in what we have in our coaching program because I've seen it work over and over and over and over again. If for some reason somebody doesn't like that, if some reason somebody wants their money back, that's fine. Like I would rather them have their money back. I don't need to take it and for them to feel terrible about themselves or for them to feel, like I took it from them or I tricked them out of it. Like I think there's guarantees where that builds the confidence and that established trust. So I think it can also be done bad though. Yeah, I think it can be done badly. So again, yeah, I think you raised really good pieces where I think a lot of it though is marketing. So people feel better with a money back guarantee or something like that than they do with just, hey, trust us and we'll get it done. So I do think it's marketing, but I also think it's probably speaks of the offer as well. But again, I think there's always bad apples in all of this. So, okay, let's go back to, we've got 2 more sections to get through. So we've talked about your architecture, which is the A. We've talked about conversions. We've talked about UTM tracking. And now module 4, what we're talking about are retargeting and remarketing machines. So typically when we're talking about retargeting and remarketing, this is the easiest money in the game. I'll say that again. Retargeting and remarketing should be your best money makers out of all your inbound ads. Now, it has gotten a lot harder to do retargeting and remarketing with people being able to opt out of cookies and so forth. And I did a live or a talk on this a couple of weeks back on how to still use retargeting even if people have opted out of cookies. I talked about on-platform retargeting and on-page retargeting. But as far as retargeting and remarketing is concerned, what I want you to just think about, at least what I want you to understand, is this is simply like a platform and logic thinking system. So think about it this way. Let's go to e-com and then we'll do lead gen. So in e-com, you have people coming to a store. You have people who are looking at products, people who are adding something to their cart, people who are adding their credit card information, adding their shipping information, and then ultimately buying. Okay. Let's say though, let's back up one step. Let's say that somebody's added their credit card information, they've added their address, but for some reason they didn't buy. All right. Who do you think is more likely to buy then? Somebody who's never heard about us before, or somebody who's gone through this entire process, loaded up their cart, but for some reason they decided to not buy. Now, obviously there's going to be people who don't buy, they look at the shipping or something like that. But ultimately, what you're looking at 2 different types of people. You're looking at a cold traffic on one side, and you're talking about a hot lead or a hot customer, or they're about to buy. And so that's why retargeting is so powerful, because you're kind of sniffing out or sorting out, where is this intent? Where is this intent happening? And then how can I spend more money where there's a great amount of intent? let's say that you have a call booking funnel and that you want people to book a phone call with you. So you have this landing page, you have a call to action, you have this Calendly widget where people are selecting the time, they're going through the day. So the first they pick the day, then they pick the time, and then they confirm and book. Well, let's just say that, let's take it one step back. Let's say they picked a day and then they picked a time, but they did not yet book. I would say that that person right there is very qualified for retargeting, because they've actually taken the action that you want. And then what you can do is you can put ads back in front of them later. So really what we're trying to think about when we are retargeting is kind of this fundamental concept of who are we targeting and who are we not. So who are we targeting would be, we want to think about days since an event occurred. So did they when did they add that thing to their shopping cart? In the last 7 days, in the last 14 days? So I could set up this retargeting and say, hey, I want to target this individual who put something in the cart for the next 4 days. After 4 days, I want to spend a little bit less on them. So days 5 through 8 or 5 through 10, I want to spend a little bit less, then I can continue to work it backwards. So that's why retargeting is so powerful. It's because you can put your message back in front of the people who are most likely to opt in, but for some reason they didn't. And then the other thing is this. Let's say that you have referrals. Let's say that you have people coming to your website. Somebody's talking good about you, and their friend or so-and-so came to the website as well. Well, now what you can do is you continue to put ads in front of those people. So if there's people out there shopping, right, and not buying, what you can do is program the internet to go put ads in front of these people, your offer in front of people, to kind of bring them back in. So if they're just kind of shopping around, they're looking, again, these people are way more likely to buy from you than somebody who's never heard about you before and never seen an ad. So again, you're not going to be spending a ton of money on retargeting. I mean, I would think it'd be 5%, 5 to 10% of the budget, and that's it. But again, think of this. Think of people knocking on your door of your business or your store, whatever. They come in, they're looking around, they're interested in buying, but for some reason they didn't. What retargeting allows you to do is really just close the deal and make sure that the people who are like standing right outside the door start hearing about you and start seeing you. Okay, I'm running out of time. So what we're going to do is move on to split testing. And again, this is kind of where everybody wants to go, but nobody wants to do the work beforehand, and that's kind of not good. So when it comes to inbound, what we're going to be talking about real briefly is the difference between disruptive and intent. So disruptive advertising are things like where you're putting images in front of folks or videos in front of folks, like YouTube or Facebook, stuff that you would see on television, right? All of a sudden you see this, you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. Didn't know I wanted that, right? So that is a disruptive ad. You're taking this video or this content, you're putting it in front of somebody who has interest, or maybe they typed in something, because you could do that on YouTube. The difference there is intent, right? So you have disruptive marketing and you have intent-based marketing. Intent-based marketing is people actually using their little fingers to type in what they're actually going after. So this would be Google search, or if you're using keywords on YouTube, this is where intent really wins. So if there's no intent, then you have to go disruptive. If you feel like there is intent, that is typically where you would start, because people typing something in are probably way more problem or solution aware than somebody who has never seen your product before. Also, the price, right? The average order value, all of this matters, or your price point, I should say, matters when it comes to disruptive and intent-based. And again, you've already done the math, so you understand where and how to utilize kind of these. Is it better to be using intent? Is it better to be using disruptive? So on these intent-based systems, or this disruptive-based marketing, what you're going to have to use are these UTMs. Because we've already set up our retargeting, because we've already set up our UTMs, and because we've already set up this conversion, now we can start sending in traffic. We can start sending in traffic with these UTMs attached to them and understand how to then split test accordingly. Now, remember, we don't want to start sending in inbound traffic unless we have retargeting, because that's just people coming in and going out, and we're never going to be able to stay in front of those. So we always build it in the sequential order. That's why we always start with our architecture, and then our conversions, then our UTMs, then our retargeting, and now we can fill this funnel with new traffic. And so as we're filling this funnel with new traffic, what we're going to try to do is we're going to do this thing called a split test. And a split test is basically introducing variables into your campaigns. So we don't ever want to run one campaign with one audience with one ad. At the ad set level, what we're typically trying to do is we're trying to split test between two audiences. So maybe it's demographics, maybe it's gender, maybe it's age, maybe it's interest, maybe it's a lookalike audience. There's a lot of different things that we can use. Maybe it's placement. So at the ad set level, what we're always thinking about is the audience and where they're seeing this. So the audience and the placement. So we should always have two, just because we want to understand. We always want to be in the game of improving our conversion rate optimization. So we'll have a CRO for one ad set, a CRO for another ad set, and then the winner will just keep spinning up, and then maybe we duplicate it and make an adjustment and then go on from there. And then within each ad set, we want to have several ads, because we're going to be able to split test the difference between those ads. And because we've used UTMs, you can see the difference between those ads in your analytics, and that really allows you to spend more effectively in that case and to scale up the winner. Ultimately, what we're trying to do when we're doing inbound ads is we're trying to look for the source, like what is the overall best platform? Is it TikTok? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? And then we can kind of go on and go forth. And as you use these UTMs, this part will become very, very easy, because there's all the data in the world to suggest what is working and what is not. And because you are using conversion-based campaigns on these inbound campaigns, you have this machine learning working for you. And again, that is what we always want to do. We always want to be running conversion-based campaigns so that there's this machine learning that gets activated and allows you to just continue to scale. And so that's the last step. The last step is understanding this, understanding the scale-up procedure. And typically what this is a reflective process that typically you'll probably run every week or every 2 weeks, where you're analyzing what you did, you're analyzing what worked, you're analyzing, well, what is it that we don't know? What are we going to try to do next time? And then it's a breakdown of all of your data. And if you get into a good practice of that, of this reflection and looking and digging into your data, then that is going to be your ticket in order to scale. So, all right. Running out of time here. Don't have any time to answer any of your questions. So thank you, John, for hopping in and asking those questions. I think we have, there's one question, like, what's the difference between retargeting and remarketing? I'll just answer that now. There's no difference. Like, remarketing is on Google ads. Retargeting is on Facebook and Instagram ads. I'm not sure what language they use on TikTok ads, but it's the same thing. It's putting ads back in front of somebody who's already visited your website or already engaged in your content. So there we go, guys. That is the Mastering Funnels blueprint. So I hope you find this useful. I hope this is something that you can take and implement. If you want our guidance and you want our procedure, go ahead and go to HACKTICS.com. You can learn more about the Mastering Funnels program that we have there. And again, there is a 14-day money-back guarantee, because I want you to be happy, and I don't just want to, we don't just want people to buy and then, hey, Moeed, thank you for commenting. Glad to know that we're actually getting seen by people on LinkedIn here. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that you found this useful. If you're listening to this, thank you for listening. If you're watching this, thank you for watching. And then if you have a comment and you want me to address something in the next live, go ahead and drop that comment below, and I will, we'll tackle it in the next live if we have time. But want to just thank you guys for watching today. Want to thank you for those of you who are listening. And, I just really appreciate you guys. Throwing comments, throwing love. It takes a little bit of work doing this, but it is fun. I look forward to it every single week. I look forward to putting out content. I look forward to helping others. And, I appreciate just everybody helping or chiming in. That makes this more entertaining, and hopefully it makes it more valuable for you. So I just want to thank you very much for tuning in and listening today, and we will see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye.